kid, video games have been part of my life. As I get older, I take a step back and look how advanced video gaming has become. The controllers have gone from square blocks to touchscreens built within the controllers. The graphics went from varied shapes to nearly perfect CG. It is unreal to believe from when I was a kid that I was playing such simple devices how it is compared to now. Hello everybody, my name is Corey Timothy Jungers and I'll be doing today's speech on the evolution of video game consoles. This is the overview. I'll be talking about console history, controllers, and graphics. From the controllers, graphics, and the console itself, video game consoles have been through various evolutionary changes over many years. Today I really want to identify this evolution of video game consoles and point out these specific areas identified around the video game's evolution. First off is console history. The first video game console, the prototype, was the brown box. It was developed in 1967. It was not made for home use. It's just simply they just created the console for just to start the video games. And there's only 6 games created for it. There was a gun they had with like the laser gun, and it was kind of like the duck hunt we see today. There's other games such as just lines chasing dots, and there's no sound to it at all. And then in 1972, the first home console was created. It was called the Megabots Odyssey, as we see here. You see the controllers, everything was pretty clunky, pretty simple gameplay. As well as the brown box, it had the Pong type video games, just dots chasing dots, and there's no sound on this as well. An interesting fact that was stated in Evolution of Video Game Consoles by Michael Poe, that he pointed out that a lot of people didn't want to buy the Megabots Odyssey because the Megabots Odyssey had Megabots TVs at the home. So a lot of people thought the Megabots Odyssey only worked along with the Megabots TVs. So a lot of people didn't purchase it, so it wasn't as successful as other Pong type consoles at the time. So throughout the time, there's other Pong type video games that are developed. The first Nintendo was actually called Color TV Nintendo, which wasn't actually Nintendo here. That was a completely different console. And then in 1983, the Nintendo Entertainment System was developed, one of the most successful video game consoles that were created that started video gaming. It introduced RPG, role-playing games, and fighter games. As we know today, we got Zelda, Metroid, we got Tekken, Street Fighter. It was an 8-bit console. Third-party developers started coming in, like Capcom, and the Mario Brothers came in. And then the Philips CDI was the first 3D 32-bit console, as you see here. Was the first console to take CDs. The graphics were pretty plain. It seemed like they cut out pictures and put it inside the video game consoles game. They had Zelda for it, which I didn't know. Zelda was for Philips CDI, which it's pretty funny to watch, kind of bad cartoon play. That was the beginning of the consoles. I'll talk about the consoles we have today. Throughout the time period from 2000 and from the Nintendo, there's other consoles obviously, the Philips CDI that were developed, like the N64 was developed, the PlayStation was developed. But then we came into 2000 era. We had the PS2, GameCube, Xbox, and the Wii developed. Cartridges started getting phased out. It was all discs that are being used, DVD discs. There was internet introduced into the consoles, like the Xbox here. You could play online gaming. PS2 had the capability as well. Wii was developed. You could use the sensors that could detect motion. And then in 2013, we have the new consoles that are developed today. We have the PS4, the Wii U, and the Xbox One. Their capabilities, there's so much they can do. The PS4 and the Xbox both are able to use Blu-ray on the console, and as well as many other interesting. The hardware is way more developed and able to store more. And they're both Wi-Fi consoles. All Wi-Fi consoles are able to use Wi-Fi. The game consoles are quite important for this evolution to become a reality. However, it wouldn't be the same if the controllers didn't advance with the consoles. We're talking about the older consoles. Here's the Atari console, our controller for the console, and pretty simple. You have analog with a button. And all these are basic controllers, nothing really much to them. There's the Nintendo controller, as you see, that's what it does, 2 buttons and the D-pad. Then you have the Color Nintendo, that was actually the first controller for Nintendo. Then you have the PlayStation, controller, which has a little bit more built into it. You have the analogs, and then you have the Sega. Sega kind of phased out, and no more Sega consoles being developed at the time, but it has a 3-button controller. Those are the older controllers, and here's the newer ones. You have the remote sensitive. It can actually detect movements through the Wii. And you have the touch sensitive pad on the PlayStation 4 controller, and these are all wireless controllers. And the most interesting is the Wii U. You can actually take the game from the Wii U console and play it on the handheld right here. You can take it wherever you're in the house, and it has the same graphics and everything. Just like how game controllers simply start off with simple shapes, such as squares and rectangles, so did the computer graphics. I'll be talking about the graphics. Starting from the 70s, you have the Space Invaders here, which start off as simple blocks, and the actual consoles developed the game themselves, these graphics, like Atari here. And then you have Super Mario Brothers here, and I like to point out from the 10 video games that made history for the video game graphics by Leo Leibovitz. He actually pointed out in his web article that the clouds in the sky were the same as the shrubs on the ground. They're just different colors. They just filled it in with color green. The same as the box here. They all use simple colors and everything was the same. That was the 80s, and in the 90s you had the development of 3D gaming with the PlayStation, and there's Final Fantasy VII right there. And then you have the newer video game graphics. With Halo, they actually started, with all 3 of these, they started rendering, taking pictures by taking photos of the whatever area they want, and they could actually use that as a base for the video game graphics. So like here, they actually got the idea of Venice or Italy itself, and they actually used the development and the shades by using difficult equations that I could never interpret myself. And then you have the development of the newer graphics nowadays, The Last of Us for PS3. I went over the console history, controllers from old to new, and the advancement of video game graphics. Game consoles' evolution is constant and is always an ongoing change. The controller graphics and cartridges of the console are simply never going to stop the change and will always advance. To wrap this up, think about this. Will there ever be an end to the game development, and how far will it go?